If right now you're incentivizing your sales team for close rate, then I can guarantee you that not only are you leaving so much money on the table, but you're actively burning your ad spend every single month. If that's the metric that you use to incentivize your closers, and that's the metric that you use to make data-driven decisions to how much you spend on ads, to how much of that spend goes towards a certain rep's calendar to keep them booked out. And if you're making your decision on whether to keep a closer based on close rate alone as well, then I can guarantee you you're just burning so much cash. It's ridiculous, right? And there's a better metric to look at instead. And the reason you don't want to look at close rate, right, is there's a couple commonsensical reasons. Like number one, when it comes to close rate, you're not actually taking into consideration like AOV, right? So for example, let's say you have two closers, closer A and B, and let's say closer A, well, let's say, for example, as well, that you have three offers, right? You have a 3K course, you have a 10K done review offer, and you have a $30,000 mastermind offer. Let's say that, right? And let's say closer A, the first closer in this example, let's say that his close rate is only 17%. But for that 17% close rate, let's say that the majority of the deals that he closes are your $30,000 mastermind offer, right? But then let's say we have closer B, and let's say closer B has a 22% close rate, so 5% higher than closer A. Well, let's say that closer B is only closing the 3K courses. And when he does close a 10K done review offer, then it has to be broken down into like 3 pays or 4 pays. And, you have to always split everything up. And it's like pulling teeth, but he's getting you a 22% close rate, right? You see what I'm saying? So even though his close rate is higher on paper, it doesn't mean that he's actually bringing you in more revenue for what you're spending on his calendar every single month to keep him booked. And you're losing so much money doing that. And I made that mistake as well in the past. And I see a lot of my clients who I take on now make that same mistake. Like we've done tens of millions of dollars in client revenue, building out their sales teams and building out their marketing systems as well and running those systems, right? And to this day, we still see people make that mistake of incentivizing closers based upon their close rate and not how profitable it is to actually book that closer's calendar up and keep it filled up, right? And then when we made this change across the offers that we run, game changer, right? So we stopped optimizing for book call, I'm sorry, close rate, and we started to optimize for revenue per book call instead, or revenue per call, you can call it, so RPC. After we made that change, animals, our closers started working their pipelines like dogs. They started to, some guys even start to like call opt-in. So the people who didn't book onto their calendars, they just opted in and gave their email and their phone number. Guys calling them up when they have like a 1 hour slot free, right? And being tougher when it comes to the objection handling, all because of incentives. You have to understand that if you want your closers to behave in a certain way, then your incentive is going to dictate the way they behave. And one of the reasons why, well, the reason when I actually figured out this is the metric to actually go after and close rate was just complete garbage was when I actually had a closer on my team. And I'll tell you the quick story. I brought him onto my team, right? And I knew him and I knew he was a good closer. And I said to him, look, man, if you can get a 35% close rate on this offer, I'm going to give you 15% commissions. And he was like, wow, that's so amazing. Like, I'm game for it. He was all pumped up, right? And then a couple of months into running this actual offer, he got like a 31% close rate one of the months, right? And then he came to me and was like, Malik, man, like, come on, like, give me the 15%. I was only like 4% off. And the only reason why I was off was because I was talking to the people that wasn't even like super qualified. Like, I knew those guys wouldn't even close, but I just wanted to like respect your advertising dollars. I know you're paying out of this with your own pocket, and you're doing all of this stuff for us. And I just wanted to work as hard as I could and close as many deals as I could, even if the people that aren't super qualified, right? And I was like, look, man, like the deal was 35%. If you don't hit 35%, you don't get the 15% commission, right? That's the deal. And then I remember like his face, he kind of looked down at the floor and he kind of mumbled under his breath. He said, well, maybe I should only take calls with the super qualified leads then, and I shouldn't talk to the unqualified ones. He kind of muttered that under his breath. And I was like, I was looking at him like, damn. And I realized, just clicked in my head that I have the incentives all wrong. Now, this guy only wants to cherry pick the best of the best leads, the lay down leads, right? So now, if someone's not like coming in their wallet ready to go, he doesn't want to speak to them. If he sees and he listens to the setting call and something's kind of wrong there, he doesn't want to take those calls. And he's not going to be motivated to squeeze as much juice out of his calendar as possible, which is ultimately going to get me and the entire organization a higher return on our ad spend and make the company and myself as the business owner more profitable. Right. So, and also the closer will make more money as well if he focuses more on not close rate, but just squeezing all of the juice out of his goddamn calendar. And that's when it clicked in my head. And I started to optimize instead for revenue per book called instead. Right. And I want to show you this metric and I want to just break it down to you and I'll show you why, how to track it first and foremost, and how to kind of figure out what the right revenue per call metric is for you. And I'll show you how to go about it. And we'll go from there. And we'll go into more details on how this will improve your reps performance as well. Right. So let's dig into this. Right. So I'm going to just be hopping in over here to the whiteboard. Right. And we're going to be doing some simple maths, like make sure you watch this video all the way through. Like, don't stop because we're doing a little bit of maths there. It's very, very simple. Anyone can get a simple maths, but it's really important you understand this. And it's important you go through this and you do the little equations in your own head as well. And it will change the game for you. Your sales team's performance will go through the absolute roof. I have seen it firsthand across multiple offers, right? So what we want to do in order to find our RPC, right, our revenue per call metric, right? This is the metric we're going to be going for. And it's essentially just how profitable. It's essentially what is the return I get on filling that closer's calendar, right? So it's very important that you do this metric from how many calls you book on the closer's calendar and not how many live calls they take. So you can argue that this metric should be called revenue per booked call, right? And I'll be explaining to you why, right? So what we want to do in order to find this target metric for yourself, you want to take your cost per booked call, right? And let's say for this example, your cost per book call is $300, right? And then you want to times that number by your target ROAS. And let's say your target ROAS is 3x. So you know that if I get a 3x ROAS, then I'm good. I can pump the gas on my ad spend and I can scale my offer to the freaking moon, bring a ton of reps on this thing and print millions, right? If that is the metric for you, then great, right? But it's obviously you're going to do the math and it depends, right? So we're going to do $300 cost per book call times by our target ROAS. And then that's going to get us $900, right? So this $900 here is going to be your target revenue per call for your closes, right? This is going to be the number, right? If your goal is to get a 3x, right? So think of this number here, this target RPC that we just found, as a proxy for ROAS, essentially, right? So you don't want to go to your closer and be like, I need you to get me a 10x ROAS or things like that. I think language is and language is very important, right? So you want to do it in the right way. So think of it as like a proxy instead. Then you want to use the revenue per call number in its place, right? So cool. We have our revenue per call number. So we know that if our closer has a revenue per call of $900, then they're getting us a free XRS. Boom. Great. Fantastic. We're happy with that, right? So then what we want to do from here, you can even do this right now, one of your closers on your offer, and you can actually find their current revenue per call. So let's say, for example, you have a closer, and let's say he right now, in last month, he did 100K in cash collected, and he did that on 100 booked calls. Remember, not live calls. It has to be booked. And I'll explain to you why, right? So if we did 100K on 100 book calls, then that means that we do 100K divided by 100, right? And then that is going to get us $1,000. So we can see that this closes revenue per book call is $1,000, right? So if this was one of your reps and this was your target ROAS, right, or 3x, then you know that this guy is $100 above, right? So he's doing really good and he's within KPI. And that's the closer that you want to definitely double down on and, book his calendar out and give him more calls, right? And this metric is really the only metric you should really be looking at when it comes to actually scaling up your sales team, right? So this number, it takes in consideration how well, not only do they do on actual live calls, it takes in consideration close rate, show rate as well, right? So if you're looking at revenue per book call, the closers are going to be more incentivized now to actually make sure that people are showing up for their calls because that dictates their revenue per call, right? And when we did this, like it's a best practice to have closers send out Loom videos, right? After we made that change, every single closer started sending out Loom videos because they wanted to improve the actual show rate so they can have more opportunity and boost their revenue per call, right? They started to listen to the setter calls and make sure the setters wasn't making any mistakes or anything like that. And they're holding the setters more accountable so they can set the leads in a better fashion for them, right? They started working their pipelines like freaking animals to squeeze all of the juice out of their pipeline to ensure that they can boost that revenue per call number even higher up, right? So they're going back into their older leads, reactivating them, being creative to draw in more revenue, right? And the reason why we do this is because of the incentives that we have in place. And I'll dig into that now. So this is an example of what you can do. You can have free tiers, right? So tier 1, right? And then you can have tier 2, and then you can have tier 3, okay? And what you can do, you can give bonuses to people who fall into certain tiers, and there can be, there can be consequences for people who fall into certain tiers, right? So let's say, for example, right, your target revenue per call is the $900, like we spoke about in our example here, right? But let's say you want to do a bonus for people who can get you a 7x RAS, like you want to do a bonus for them. So what we can actually do, right, is to quickly find that number, right? So we can do our $300 cost per call, cost per book call, right? And then we can times that by 7, which is our target ROAS, right? For the bonus we want to do. And then that's going to get us 2,100, right? So now we can have a tier. We can call this like A player tier, for example, or A level tier, right? And if someone is in this tier, you can do really cool things. And if this is their revenue per call, you can do really cool things. So what you can do is give them for example, like a $2,000 bonus if you're able to get into tier 1. And then now it's gamified, right? Everyone's trying to get into tier 1. And what we actually do, we give them bonuses at our company. And what we also do as well is we told everyone up front, like, hey, if you're in tier 1, we're going to give you all of the best leads. When someone sends me like a DM saying, hey, I want to move forward with you guys, I love what you do, like, how do I get set up? My friend, if you're in tier 1, that's going to go to you. We're going to reward all of our best performers, and we have no shame about that. We're going to give the best calls and the best leads to the best reps, and you'll eat even better, right? So now they're going to be super incentivized to get into tier 1. And for you as a business owner, it just makes common sense to give your best leads to your best guys, right? And this will give you a system to actually be able to do that mathematically instead of focusing on close rate. Because if you're giving the best leads to the guys with the highest close rate, they're not necessarily making you the most money, right? So we can do stuff like that, and we do it at our company, and everyone's cool with it, and they love it, right? And if someone falls into, for example, tier 3, like the bottom tier, we can say, for example, that is like a 400 revenue per book call. And then if you know that if this is the metric that makes you unprofitable on ad spend, then what you can do at this level here is tell them, like, look, if you fall within this level, you can do a couple of different things. You can tell them that we're going to remove you from the calendar and focus more on coaching, or we're going to reduce your availability to only 3 to 4 calls per day, right? And then you make that very clear upfront to your sales team, and everyone's fully aware of it, and they'll go along with it, right? And then you can actually, incentivize your guys based on that, and then you can actually know who is bringing you in the cash and who's not, and incentivize people to actually bring in more revenue, and it will just make everyone more money. Like your revenue will go up, your profitability will go up, and the closers will make more money, and it's just fantastic. And then after we made this change as well, it also is going to weed out the A players from the C players. Like when I made this change in my organization, like one of my guys, like he loved it. He was like, God damn it, like I love this shit. Like, why didn't you make this change before? You should have did this ages ago. Like, yes, I'm down for this. I love this. Like, yes, you're gonna give me all of the best leads. I want to get a bonus for hitting these metrics. I'm game for that. Let's do it. Let's go. You should have did this ages ago. Like, what are you waiting for? Giving all these guys the calls. Give them all to me. I'll hit that number. I'll hit tier 1. I'm game, baby. Let's go. Right. And he was like super pumped when I put that metric into the organization. And then what you can also look out for is guys who don't like it, right? Guys who are like, oh my God, this is blasphemy. Oh my God, like what about equal rights and equal opportunity and equal leads for everybody? Oh my, how can you do? Like, if you get someone like like that on your team, then you know that that's probably someone that doesn't fit. Wait, I can't talk about you, but I know that person doesn't fit into my team's culture. And it's like, oh, okay, like you're not a culture fit, great. Not you. This probably isn't for you, and I can find someone that can actually fit into what we're trying to build here, which is a high performing sales team, right? And it helps you weed out people like that. So again, like a very powerful metric to look at, you know. And I'll even tell you like another story as well. Like this was back when I was focusing only on close rate. I remember I actually had this closer who I brought on. We can call him Closer C because he was a C player, and I brought him on alongside another closer called Closer A. I brought them both on at the same time. This is a crazy story that happened, and it was a big like wake up call for me as well. And yeah, this is also one of the things that added towards me making this change into our companies, right? So what we started to do, what I did, I brought them both on Closer C, the C player, and Closer A, right? And I told them both like, look, you have until this time until you have to at least be at a 25% close rate to stay on this offer. Both guys were like, okay, cool, that's really good, right? I'm cool with that, right? And because that's what was optimizing for before. And then I realized something. Like very early on, I realized something. So both of their close rates are like very similar, like near neck and neck. The A player had a slightly higher close rate than the C player, but it wasn't nothing crazy. But the A player was getting me a 10x ROAS, but the C player was getting me like a 1.5 or something ridiculous like that, but their close rate was like very similar. And the reason for that was because the A player, we had like a 50K package. He was closing like so many of the 50K packages. Whereas the C player, closer C, he was only closing our lowest package for 10K. And when he did close a 10K, it needed to be broken down into like 4 installments, right? And it was like pulling teeth just for him to be able to do that. And I was like, oh my days, like what? I realized I had the metrics all like just wrong, So even though the close rate's like very similar, closer A was just bringing in so much more revenue. So what I had to do, and this is where it got like crazy, I had to give closer A more calls because it was like making us so much more money, and he was like really good from like a quantitative standpoint and also like a qualitative standpoint as well. Like the quality of his work, it was like a really pristine closer. So I started to give him more calls, right? And then I had to hop onto a call with closer C, and I told him like, look, man, we really need to get your performance up. Let's go on a performance plan, or we're gonna have to let you go, or find another path for you. I had to be like very like frank with him. And he went like ballistic. It was like, Melik, how can you say this to me? Your favorite, you're giving favorites to that guy. Our close rates are like very similar. I'm like, look, man, like I broke down the number. Like, look, he's getting me 10x ROAS. Like when we spend $10,000 on his calendar, he brings in $100,000. You can see that, right? When we spend $10,000 on your calendar, we're barely breaking even. So I know we spoke about close rate, but we have to look at the maths as well. And he was like distraught. And then like he was like, Melik, he was like very upset. He had a lot of bad blood towards me. And then he made threats. Thankfully, that situation got, handled the way it needed to be handled. But it was like another moment where I was like, oh my days, I really need to make sure that I'm incentivizing my guys well, because if not, I'm going to get into situations just like that. And through all of those experiences, that's how we came up with the revenue per call metric, right? And what this metric does as well, it does so many things, right? So, like I said before, the closers are going to start sending out Loom videos now before their calls, right? And they're going to like want to really do it and do it very well to improve their show rates. They're going to be calling prospects before their actual call to get that, to build that initial rapport that makes their sales process even easier, right? Like their objection handling, they're going to get way tougher with objection handling. They're not going to want to let people go because they know that every lead is like so important. And you're going to have guys calling like the opt-ins and like the no-shows and trying to get them back on their calendar because they all improve their revenue per call. They're going to be working their pipelines like absolute savages to squeeze as much juice out of it. Like even just today, literally just today, like one of my sales guys reached out to me. Was like, Melik, can I put together like some SMS messages and some email messages to do like a little reactivation campaign and do like a little promo for some of the guys that have them in my pipeline? I want to just get them reactivated again and see if I can squeeze in some more revenue before the end of the month. Like that is amazing. That is like A player mentality. So it's like it's normally you as the offer owner that needs to do the promotions and do the reactivation campaigns and think about stuff like that. But you're getting your guys to think like freaking owners now because they have so much more skin in the game. They're gonna want to be in that tier one bracket. They're going to want to get all the best leads handed to them. It's such a good incentive. They're going to want to get the bonus. They're not going to want to fall into carefree and get put on low priority, right? So you're going to have a team of animals when you do this, right? And then you're also able to actually make decisions that are way cleaner when it comes to how hard to spend on your ads because you actually know how profitable each rep is. And we track this metric on a day by day basis. I track everyone's revenue per call, right? So really important metric, guys. I really recommend to track it. We'll change the game for you. Your sales team's performance will go through the roof. And that's pretty much it from this video over here. So again, like if you need any help with, your sales team and just optimizing that performance and scaling your offer further, and if you need help with the marketing side of things as well, just let us know. We build out sales teams for our clients. We build out marketing side for our clients as well. Oftentimes we mesh them both together. We handle the marketing and the sales and the entire acquisition process. If you need any help with that, give us a shout. Let us know. You can follow me on Instagram at Malik Sterling as well. And yeah, hopefully you found this helpful. Definitely implement it or really change the game for you. And we'll speak soon.